Cool. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Automating IT with Level. Speakers for today are Jacob Hogg, our CEO. We have Jason Chiwi, our CEO, and myself. My name is Derek. I'm an account executive here at Level, but some things we're going to be covering today. I'll start off with just a little brief history of Level, who we are, what we're trying to do here. And then I'll pass it off to Jacob, and he'll be covering the basics of automations, showing you some of the, over the triggers and actions you have available in Level. We'll also be building an automation from scratch and showing you how to use some of the custom fields and variables to tackle some of the more complex problems we see in automations. We'll also be covering a little bit about patch automations, and Jacob will be doing a sneak peek into what's next with Level's automation capabilities. But what is Level? We've been around for the past 5 years or so. We're definitely in the newer class of RMMs, and our founders, Jason, he's been in the MSP business for the past 25 years or so, and he's worked with a lot of different RMMs. So he knows what good looks like. So we wanted to build something that has feature parity across all operating systems, something that's simple and just generally modern and easy to use. So that's a little background on Level. Our key features includes a lot of the general RMM specific features like remote control, background management, inventory, patch management, things like that. As of late, we've really been putting a strong emphasis on monitoring and alerting and automations, which we'll be covering today. I know security is really important for a lot of you, so I did want to state that we are SOC 2 and GDPR compliant, and some of our more, I guess, security-focused features are our peer-to-peer connections and end-to-end encryption. We also require two-factor authentication. We do have role-based access control for your team, and we can lock down access to RMM to specific IP addresses. And we do conduct external quarterly pen tests. If anybody wants that information, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll get it over to you. But that is all for me. Like I said, if you have any questions during the webinar, drop them in the chat. Me and Jason will continually monitor those. But with that being said, I will pass it off to Jacob.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to walk you through automations and show you how it can make your life easier. By the end of this session, I hope you'll be able to see how useful automations are, and you'll know how to build automations that work while you sleep. Everything from automating security checks to setting up new devices or even managing lost or stolen devices. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start with kind of the foundation of any automation in Level, and that's really triggers. So here we have an automation, and let's start by diving into this first piece here. There's really two pieces to an automation. The first is triggers, and you can think of that as the if and if this then that. Triggers are the conditions or events that cause your automation to run. It's essential for reacting in real time to things like system events or new devices or even changes in your tags or groups. So for example, you might set up a trigger that activates when a device is lost, marked as lost or stolen, or you might have some type of trigger that runs on a schedule for security scans. So here we have kind of a practical example with our ask user to reboot automation. You can see here we have multiple triggers. Here we have two triggers that will cause this pipeline to run if the device's uptime exceeds 30 days. But we also have a trigger that will run if the reboot tag is applied to a device. And this is a really neat example of showing that you can have one trigger or you can combine multiple triggers based on what you need. So let's edit this pipeline and kind of show what options you have from when it comes to triggering an automation. So first, we can, of course, do things on a schedule. So daily, weekly, monthly. We can also trigger automations when a new device is detected or when it enters or leaves a certain group. And we can trigger automations when tags are applied or removed. And we can also trigger it from an external system like a webhook. Okay. Once a trigger fires, that's where the second piece takes over, these actions. And these are the tasks that your automation performs. And it can be anything from running scripts to installing updates. And the best part is most of these actions are point and click. You don't have to really write any code. So for example, you could use actions to manage system updates, install applications, or ask users for approval, like we're doing here before a device reboots. So let's dive in and kind of look at all of the actions that we have available. So of course, we have some system actions to restart, run scripts or shell commands. We can wait for approval or delay the automation. We have some level actions that we can do, like applying tags, removing tags, changing the group, putting a device in or out of maintenance mode. We have some security settings here where we can install updates or do Windows Defender scans. Within these update actions, like I said, no coding is really required. We can just click on the action. We can choose what categories of updates we want to install. If we want to delay those updates for stability, we can do that really quickly right there. Then we have some app management actions. So we can install third-party applications using winget. And we also have native actions to install Office on both Windows and Mac. So you don't have to write code to use the Office deployment tool to deploy Office. You can just click our built-in action, select what version of Office you want to install, and we'll handle that for you. No code required on your side. Then last but not least, we have user approval and notify user actions. And as we go through this demo, I'll make sure to cover these actions and triggers in more detail. Just wanted to give kind of a high level overview of the various triggers and actions that you have available. Best of all, when it comes to building automations or writing scripts, our support team will help. So if you need help, just reach out to our support group and we'll be happy to help you with that. So let's go ahead and build something practical together. So I'll start with showing you how to create an automation that triggers when a device is marked as lost or stolen. So let's go ahead and create a new automation. I call this lost stolen endpoint. And this is something that you hope you'll never need, but when you do, you'll be glad that you already have it ready to go. I'm going to skip the trigger piece for now. And we'll just jump straight into building this automation. And there's a few series of steps that I want to take. Like first, I think we want to gather some intel about where this device is located. So we're going to run some scripts to do this. Of course, all of the scripts I'm sharing are on our GitHub, but we're happy to help as well. So in this case, I'm going to gather intel if it's a Windows device. So we'll add a conditional where the platform is equal to Windows. And I'm just going to say Windows gather intel. Okay, so we got this first action set up. Let's repeat this for Mac and Linux. Here we're going to gather intel on Mac, where the platform is equal to Mac. Okay, and last but not least, we'll do Linux here. Okay. All right, so now we got this first piece. Now I want to ask for approval before we destructively erase this device. So I'm going to add a wait for approval action. I'm going to go ahead and rename this. I'm going to call like approve destructive erase. Okay. And now we want to actually erase these endpoints. So again, I have some scripts for this. The erase windows. Oh, don't forget to add our conditional here. Copy this. I can do it a little faster on the next one. Okay. All right, last one here. All right, so now we have this automation built out. when a device enters this pipeline, we'll conditionally gather intel depending on its operating system. We'll wait for approval, and then we're going to erase that device. And I guess just for extra measure, we'll add a restart here. Might fail because we just erased the device. So I'll say restart if responsive. And I will actually tell it to suppress if that action fails. It'll suppress and continue the pipeline. Okay, so now we have this pipeline. Right now, I still have to manually add devices to it. That's not really what we want. So let's add a trigger. So in this case, we want to run this pipeline if the loss tag is applied to a device. Say loss tag applied. But I also want to run the trigger if the stolen tag is applied. So either of these tags can be applied, and this pipeline will run. And we'll be able to trace back which tag, which trigger caused this pipeline to run. Cool. So let's go ahead and just test this out by applying the lost or stolen tag to a device. So let's say this device was lost. We can apply that tag. We see the tag show up. We click into this device and go to the automation section. We see immediately there's a new automation running here that is gathering intel. Where is this device located? We can see it's located in Asheville, North Carolina. Now it's asking me to approve whether we want to destructively erase this device. And all I had to do was just tag the device as lost. So very similar to how we're doing with this lost or stolen endpoint, we can do the same thing for other pieces of software. So let me show you a couple examples of that. So I showed you we have that really nice action to install Office. Say I wanted to install Office on these devices. I can very quickly tag the devices with Office. And just like before, we jump over to the automation section. We'll see there's a new automation running that's installing Office on this device. And all I had to do was tag the device with Office. Similarly, if I remove the Office tag, that'll cause an automation to run that will uninstall Office. So let's touch on security too. So this is an example of using a schedule to trigger an automation. So we're running this every Sunday at midnight on our Windows endpoints. And you can see we're doing things like Windows Defender updates and scans, upgrading all of the third-party packages that we find on the device. Even if they weren't installed through WinGet, we'll go ahead and update them. We're checking the security center, the firewall, the AV, the admin users that are on the device, as well as the disk health. And we have similar automations that run on Mac and Linux as well. So this is really good for just to make sure that you can have your automations kind of running in a set it and forget it manner where you're regularly verifying the endpoint security and device health all on autopilot. Just like we're doing here, we can also set up brand new devices using automation. So here, if the setup tag is applied, we have a bunch of things that we're doing. So we're adding the admin user, joining it to a domain, setting up the AV and the firewall. Down here, we're installing some basic applications using WinGet. We're updating all of our the device, the operating system, and then we're going to update those third-party apps and restart and remove the tag. So you can see how you can chain together a really complicated series of events to set up a device from scratch. And again, all of this our support team will help you with. So if you come to us and say, I need an automation that does X, Y, and Z, we'll help you build that. So next, I want to dive into some of the recent changes to automations that really make it much more powerful. And the first is automation variables. And variables are going to change how you build automations, and it's going to make them much more powerful and dynamic. So I've got two great examples to show you for this. So let's pull up our default tags automation here. And this is something I've wanted to be able to do for a long time, which is automatically tag devices based on their state. Right now, here, we're tagging devices as they come into level with workstation or server based on their type. But we're not taking into account the software that's on that device, which means over here I have some monitoring policies for Nginx and Exchange, and you can see these aren't targeting any devices currently. And right now, I would have to manually tag the appropriate devices with Nginx or Exchange to get those policies applied. But I want to have this all automatic, so I don't have to think about that. So let's work together to make this automation smarter with variables. First thing we're going to do is run a shell command that's going to just grab all of the services that are enabled on boot for this device. So I have a one-liner here on Windows that will do just that. Just list all of the services that are enabled. We'll add a conditional here. We only want to run this on Windows endpoints. And I'm just going to say get Windows services. And here's the secret to this. We want to save the output of this shell command to a variable. So let's go ahead and just create a new variable right here. And I'm going to call this Windows services. Okay. So now the output of this command is going to be saved to this variable that I can reference later. Let's do the same thing with Linux as well. So in this case, it'll be a bash command, slightly different query, but where the platform is Linux, we're going to say get Linux services. And again, we want to assign this to a different variable, say Linux services. Okay. So now you can see this new icon that we have. And this just indicates that a variable is in use somewhere in this system. So we have these variables. Now let's talk about how we can dynamically tag devices based on the output, based on these variables. So we'll use the apply tag action. And let's say we want to apply the Nginx tag for devices where we detect Nginx as a service. So we can go down to the conditionals, and we're going to add a new conditional that's based on a variable. And we'll select our Linux services variable, and we'll say where the variable contains Nginx. We'll say tag Nginx servers. So that's pretty straightforward. We're going to apply that Nginx tag if the output of this variable contains Nginx. Let's do something similar for Exchange as well. Okay, so we're going to apply a tag. I have an Exchange tag here. And again, we're going to reference this variable, Windows services. And if that contains, let's do win management. I know that's one of the things that is required by Exchange. So let's say apply Exchange tag. I'll keep the same format, tag Exchange servers. And there we go. So now we have actions that are conditionally tagging the device based on if the service is detected. So let's test this out. I believe this Debian device here has Nginx on it, and I think this server has Exchange on it. So let's test it out. So we can see it skip that Windows step because it knows it's not a Windows device. And we can see it grabbed all of those services. We can see it tagged it with server, and it tagged it with Nginx, but did not tag it with Exchange, which is what we expected there. And if we look through here, let's see, looks like this server might not, oops, let me go back here. I'll look at my output here. So we can see this one skipped, so it didn't match the conditions. So let's look back. I might not have installed Exchange on this server, so that might be appropriate, but let's see. Oops, I don't want to apply that reboot tag. So if the variable Windows services contains win management, I think that should be there. So I'm going to associate that with my fault. But if we jump back to this device over here, we'll see Nginx has been tagged. If we go over to monitors, we can see now I have this Nginx policy that was dynamically applied. This still doesn't solve kind of the last piece of the problem, which is I want to add these tags dynamically based on the changes in state of the endpoint. This is only doing it when a device is created. So if we wanted this to happen on a regular basis, what you might want to do is run it on some type of schedule. So we could run this every day or several times a week. And as part of this, you would want to remove all the tags and apply the tags that are relevant based on your scripts and your shell commands. So think about what this means. As services are added, tags can update automatically, and those tags can even trigger other automations, or they can just apply specific monitoring rules. It's completely dynamic. So let's take another look at an example of using variables within an automation. So here I'm just going to create a new one called apply reboot tag. And for this scenario, let's say we want to tag a device with reboot if Windows thinks it needs to be rebooted from like an operating system update. So I have a script for that. So we'll run that script. I won't do a conditional here. I'm just going to run the script to see check Windows reboot. And again, we're going to assign the output here to a variable. Okay, so saving it, we can see the variables in use. We have that. Now, as far as the next action, again, we want to apply that tag, reboot tag, to this device if the variable indicates that the device needs to be rebooted. Okay, so now we'll be doing that. And the neat thing about this particular action, so maybe we want to run this again on like a weekly schedule. So we'll just run it on our Windows devices. But the neat thing is when this reboot tag is applied, it's actually going to trigger another automation. And this kind of allows you to have this chain reaction of this automation causes another automation to run, which can cause another automation to run. So remember in our earlier automation where we were handling reboots. So here we have that ask user to reboot automation. Well, now one of the things that caused this automation to run is the reboot tag being applied. And now we're applying that reboot tag automatically from an automation. So the whole process can become automated. Now, let's talk a little bit about custom fields. This is another new feature that's really powerful, and it solves some real world problems that we're facing every day, at least before. So custom fields allowed you to store device-specific information that automations and scripts can reference later. So let me show you some practical examples of custom fields and show how this is a game changer. So let's take a look at this AV automation here. So I have an automation that's going to install some AV software. And in this case, if we take a look at this script, you'll see that we have this hard-coded key. And this was a very common problem with many of our customers. And essentially, they would end up having to duplicate this script across all of their clients because every client had a different key that they need to reference. So let's fix this automation using custom fields. So we'll go up to the top. We're going to create a new custom field. And I'm just going to call this Sentinel-1 key. And we'll create that. With custom fields, you can have a default value, and this will cascade to all of your devices by default. So I want to be able to see this. So I'm going to do something like global key, save this setting, right? Actually, I'm going to turn off the admin only just so we can see what it's set to here. Okay, so here we have this global key. If we go to our device list, and I'll just start by pulling up a device, and we go to the custom fields, you can see this global key value is now inherited from our main account. The neat thing is I can override these custom fields based on groups. So let's say this is a company and they have a different AV key for Sentinel-1. So I can overwrite it here. I'm going to call this like endpoint key. That would be your real license key. But now any device within this endpoints folder should receive that new inherited key. but anything in this servers folder will still have our global key. You can also override values at the device level. So let's say I grab this server here. It's currently using the global key, and I'm just going to change it to some special device server key. So let's say server device key. All right, so now we have 3 different values. This Windows server is using this server device key. BitLocker is using our endpoint key. And then everything else, like this Ubuntu device, is using our global key. So if we jump back to this AV automation, let's update it. So right now, this script is referencing this hard-coded key. There's this new variables button down here, and we can actually replace it with our custom field. So now this script is going to dynamically pull in the correct value based on where that device is located. So I've saved that. Let's go ahead and make the same change for Mac here. Okay. Let's do the same thing for Linux as well. Sweet. So we're all set. Now let's just, well, let's trigger these automations by applying the tag instead of doing it manually. So I think BitLocker was the one of them. We need the Ubuntu device and this one. So that should give us all the key variations. So I'm going to tag this with AV, which will trigger that AV automation to run. So if we pull up that automation, we see these devices flowing in. Let's take a look at this first one here, Linux device. It got the global key. That's what we expected. Let's test out this BitLocker one and see what key it's going to get. It got the endpoint key, which is what we expected. And I missed that last one. So let's pull it up here. The Windows server, we expect that to have the server key. So you can see how we dynamically pulled in the correct key based on inheritance, which is really powerful. So the good example is the AV solution, but another example of this might be handling rotating your BitLocker or file vault recovery keys. So let's walk through that solution. I'm going to create a new custom field, and I'm going to call this BitLocker recovery key. I'll make this admin only. Okay, so now we have that BitLocker recovery key. I'm not setting a default value in this case, just because we're going to pull that in. So right now, if we pull up our devices, we can see there's nothing set. I can't copy it. It's completely empty. So let's build out an automation that handles grabbing that BitLocker key and saving it to that custom field. So we'll call this BitLocker recovery key. And let's run this on a weekly schedule. We'll just do every Sunday. And for right now, I'm just going to do Windows devices since we're talking BitLocker. Okay. And first thing we need to do is run some type of command or script to get the BitLocker recovery key. So I happen to have one of those. And again, you can reach out to our support. All of this is on GitHub as well. So here we're going to get that BitLocker key. We're going to get BitLocker recovery key. We're going to save the output of that to a variable so we can reference it. So call this BitLocker recovery key. Right. So we have that first action here. Now we need to save that recovery key to the custom field that we made. So we have this set custom field action that we can use. So we're going to select the custom field and select the variable that we want to assign to that custom field. So all set. Let's go ahead and add our BitLocker device to this automation and see if it updates the custom field. So we can see it's starting with grabbing the BitLocker key. So we got that key, saved it to a variable for us, and now it says it updated our BitLocker recovery key. So let's see if that is the case. We jump over to here, we edit. We're not going to be able to see it because I encrypted it, but I'll copy it to my clipboard, and I have that key now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we have the key stored in that field. So That's another good example of custom filled usage. We could enhance this automation too. We could automatically rotate that BitLocker key and keep it updated. So while we're diving into custom fields, let me kind of focus on a few other examples of custom field usage. So another example here might be tracking the admins that are found on a device. So just a list of what admins are present. You could even go as far as, here's all of the users we detected on this device. Other examples, last backup. So when was the last backup for this endpoint? Well, we could get that data and save it to a custom field so that you can reference it when you're looking at a device. Another example would be maybe an admin password that you want to store. And again, this password could dynamically change. We can set it at a global value and override it for each group. And then within our automation, so if we pull up that automation over here where I'm creating a new user. So here I'm adding an admin user, probably wouldn't want to hard code the password. Instead, I probably want to reference this custom field. So I can just put that in there and now it'll be created with that value there. Jumping back to custom fields, another interesting use case for custom fields that I've seen a couple companies use is tracking standards. So you might want to create a custom field that defines minimum standards for RAM and CPU type, and then you can alert if devices are below the standards that you would expect. So like we could say min RAM, and within that we could say, 8 GB. We can force that to everything below it. And now if we go to any device, we'll see those custom fields with that value. And we can start to build policies and alerts around if that device deviates from our minimum standards. So these examples really just scratch the surface of what's possible with custom fields. But before we wrap up, I want to give you just a sneak peek at what's coming next in automations. We're prioritizing features that automate more of your daily tasks while giving you greater control over how and when automations run. So some of the changes that we're going to be adding here right now, if you want to run an automation every day, you have to manually add um, another day for each of the times that you want to run it. So we're going to be adding daily and hourly triggers to automations. I already showed you a sneak peek of some of the actions that we're going to be adding. For example, the install Office automation action that's new. That's going to be coming out very soon. No scripting required. Most importantly, if you have any suggestions or ideas for automation actions that you want to see added, please let us know. We want to hear. I know we've kind of covered a lot here today, from basic triggers and actions to advanced features like variables and custom fields. But the goal here is to automate the repetitive stuff so you can focus on more important tasks. So I hope you take these examples and customize them to your needs and start building automations that make your life easier. And of course, the team is here to help if you need us. I hope you're as excited about automations as we are. And I know you've got some great questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Derek.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jacob. That was awesome, per usual. Give me one sec. There we go. Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and open it up to questions. I'll let Jason go ahead and moderate the chat and answer some questions for y'all. Take about 5-10 minutes to do this. So go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, if any of you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A section in the webinar, and we'll address them. A few that have come up that you can see in the chat, but I'll answer them so everyone can hear. So what languages were supported by our automations and our scripting engine? We have a pretty extensive list, PowerShell being maybe the primary on Windows, but PowerShell, Bash, CSH, OS Query, Python, Ansible, and Go. So pretty extensive with the scripting languages there. What else do we have? It would be great to show, we were talking about custom fields and which was inherited. That is actually a feature that's in there. You didn't see it, but if you go to a custom field on a device, you'll see at which level it's inheriting its value from. So that is in there already. So you'll be able to see that. Let's see. Can you run an automation update? Can an automation update custom fields for several devices at once? Answer is yes. And that's going to be based off of the triggers of an automation. So however you're triggering that automation, it can trigger on many devices. So whether it's a schedule or a tag or some other trigger that we have, a group setting, it will target all of those devices and the conditions that you set on your triggers. So let me jump over here. Oh, there's a question about some of the scripts that were shared in today's webinar may not be on our GitHub, our public GitHub repository right now, but we'll make sure that they get posted up there here very soon. So yeah, look for those there. And there was a question about the availability of this recording after the fact. And so we are recording this webinar. It will be posted on our on the Level YouTube channel, and you can watch it there and get access to it at a later time. Let's see. So are there role-based access controls for visibility on custom fields? You had mentioned capturing a secret. So the role-based access controls on custom fields is really that checkbox of admin or not. So if they're an admin, they would be able to see those. Otherwise, they would not be able to see those. So that's there. We will be enhancing our permissions and security, and so we'll certainly be looking at all areas of the app. But yeah, I mean, it might be a good time to maybe plug our roadmap and feature where you can look at our current roadmap and what's coming up, and you can vote and comment on those, and you can upvote different things. All right, let's see. Heard a few more chats come in.
So I'll jump in with one. Jonathan asked, he's a novice with scripting. Do we have a webinar where we offer like step-by-step guidance on some simple common scenarios like checking for a reboot? Reach out to our support team. We're happy to write scripts for you. Just tell us what you need and we'll write it for you. But that's a great idea. Maybe our next webinar we'll do on scripting.
Okay.
Another question from Terry. So he says, regarding several devices, let's say I have a script which runs in-map on a computer on the network. Can I take the output of that to match to other devices and update their custom fields? That's really interesting. That's not currently possible. Essentially, that script is executing directly on the device, and then we're updating the custom field for just that device. But I'll bring that up with the team. That's really neat. I get your use case with like, I'm doing a network scan on one device, and then I want to update like what ports are open on all of the other devices.
There's a question about, will there ever be a way to have our clients have access to using Level where they only have access to just their company devices? So you can do that today with creating a user and a role. That role can be scoped down to device groups, and we can also scope the automations that they are able to see and interact with. We can restrict, edit, and capabilities there. So if you wanted to give them access to their devices in a Level group, you could create an account for them and do that.
Another question from Joanne. We need some ways to check for services exist instead of started or stopped. Both of those one-liners that I used were actually checking to see if the service was enabled on start, but you could modify that one-liner to look for just if it exists, if it's present. That's not a problem. That's pretty easy to do. Just reach out. We can help tweak that script for you.
One here in the chat, not in the automation topic, but I saw that you have a plan for a custom protocol for connection to a device. Can you give us more info? So yeah, our goal there is to, there's lots of devices, maybe IoT devices, think network devices that don't have, that are not running Windows, Mac, or have a a GUI that we can interact with or install an agent on, but we still need to manage those devices. And so in a future release, we'll be looking at how we can integrate and manage those devices either using HTTPS, SSH, or other means to, whether it's SNMP, to kind of gather information about those endpoints and give you options to manage those within Level platform. So. Anything else? Let me just. Is initiating chat before remote control planned? Yes, we want that. You want that. We all want it. Let's all shout hooray! We are going to be road mapping. It's kind of our next set of big features here in the coming month or so, and so I'm sure that will be something that we'll be discussing. So yep, look for that and many other features that that will be coming in the future.
On that note, we just launched a new public portal that shows our feature request as well as our roadmap. It's feedback.level.io. So I encourage you to check that out. Another question from Terry. Is it possible to trigger a web request from within an automation? Not yet. Right now, you can trigger an automation via web request, but you can't make web like an HTTP request within an automation outside of like a script. But it is in our roadmap to add a native action for that soon.
Hey, Jacob, I know we're coming up on time here. We can keep going with Q&A, but I did want to just briefly cover some of the promos that we got coming up, or that we have running right now. So let me jump over here and talk about that for a little bit. So we're offering a lifetime of 10 free endpoints for personal use for anybody who wants to take Level home, I guess, and use it to manage their personal devices or your family devices. Just spin up a free account under a separate email, and we'll adjust it for the 10 free endpoints. And for everybody that's on this webinar, we'll be doing an extended trial for the rest of the year. So some cool promos that we got running right now. And if anybody wants to, I guess, see the rest of the Level platform, things like the remote control and the monitoring, feel free to scan that QR code on the left and we could set some time up. Otherwise, if you'd like to just jump straight into the platform, you can sign up for a trial as well on the right. So yeah, use those QR codes. But I'll pass it back to Jacob for some more Q&A.
Are automations that trigger on group also triggered when devices are in a subgroup? Oh, I think I know what you're asking. You're asking if they're in a subgroup, but we're targeting the main group, will the subgroup trigger as well? And I believe the answer is no. It would need to be in that main group. Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but
I think that's right. And you can check the children groups as well if you wanted it to run for them as well.
yeah. So, okay.
Any other questions? Anything we missed? Let's see. I think I got everyone. If there's any other questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. We'll give another minute or so.
So regarding the 10 free personal use promo device promo, what do we need to do to get started? So you can just start a free trial and then just email support that this is for personal use. We'll evaluate and communicate with you, and then we'll mark your account accordingly. So yep, just start the trial, send an email to support@level.io, and we'll get you taken care of. So I guess for those of you who are current customers, we hope this was valuable for you to kind of see some of the new features that we've added. For those of you who are not yet customers of Level and want to learn more, I encourage you to book a demo with us. It's very informative. We can show you maybe the power of what Level and can do for you in saving you time and effort and managing your endpoints and devices. And so, yeah, I encourage you to do that. With that said, we'll maybe stop questions. Feel free to continue to add. If there's any additional questions that you have after this, email support@level.io. We'll feel free to answer those and we'll get back to you. So.
One more question here. Sprinto integration. It's on our roadmap. I know Sprinto is one of the companies that we use for SOC compliance. I think we were waiting on them to get back to us. So it's not on our immediate roadmap at this time, but something we hope to do at some point. In regards to, is there a core RMM webinar? I just shared a couple links to some video demos that kind of cover the basics of Level. But of course, as Jason mentioned, feel free to book a demo as well. It's just level.io/demo. All right. I think that's it, guys. I appreciate everyone for stopping by and your feedback and all the great questions. If you guys have any other questions after this, feel free to reach out. We love hearing from our customers and users. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.